Hey guys, and welcome back to That's My Drink. So this week we're looking at infusions, and in particular alcohol infusions. These are a fantastic way to add an overall flavour to the entire cocktail. You think if you use a syrup or a shrub, you only ever use it in like 15, 20 ml increments, but sometimes the alcohol part can be 2/3 of your cocktail. And if you've managed to infuse an extra flavour into there that you want throughout the entire cocktail, it really helps sort of like bring out all aspects all the way through the drinking experience. And also it's a great way to add like an overall theme to your cocktail, which I'll be doing at the end as well. So what is an infusion? Effectively, it's just taking an item and sticking it in some liquid. You can do infusions of anything from water and alcohol right through to oils, honeys. The same principle applies for everything. You take whatever flavour you want in solid form, stick it in a jar, and put some liquid in around it. So how do infusions work? It's a simple process, really. It comes from physics want to have everything in equal amounts. Everything strives for equilibrium. So temperature from hot to cold, like forces and gravity for every bit that pulls you down and something else pushing you up. And the same with concentration of flavour in liquids. What it'll want to do is when you put your item into your liquid, it will want to balance out the flavour of these, both the liquid and the solid, so everything tastes the same. Everything's got an equal amount of flavour molecules in it. How does it do this? It's a process called osmotic diffusion. So what happens is that when you've got something that allows a liquid to flow through it, as it flows through, it will pick up some of these flavour particles and then disperse them into the rest of the liquid, therefore making everything taste the same after a certain amount of time, equaling out the concentration of flavour. So what's an example of an infusion we use all the time that would make this whole process a lot easier to understand? Most of us will do one infusion every day. It's a cup of tea. A cup of teas in the morning are pretty much the embodiment of infusion, and because it's like water in a tea bag, you can sometimes even see the infusion happening. So what makes tea so easy to do an infusion with? Well, the first thing is obviously the temperature of the water. When you put the water in hot as opposed to in cold, the infusion happens at a much quicker rate. But obviously when we're on about alcohol infusions, we want to use this for applying to alcohol. So why don't we heat the alcohol first? Mainly because alcohol is a lower boiling point than water. If you were to stick your alcohol in a kettle, you just boil all the alcohol straight away. But secondly, just because alcohol is great at picking up flavour compounds and absorbing flavour from things, that it doesn't need to be hot to get that kind of infusion, that kind of flavour and extraction when it flows through your tea or your herb or your fruit that you've put into it. There are techniques where you can apply heat to alcohol called sous vide, but these are quite expensive and not really like home bartender equipment. Unless you've got money to burn, then by all means grab one. So what else about tea do we notice when we're making it? What makes it so good at infusions? Obviously we've covered the hot water. Using alcohol negates the need for that. What does the tea actually look like? So when we've got some tea, it's just here, you see it's all dried and small. Both of these things are quite important. So we'll start with why is it better when it's dried. The process of drying things whips all the moisture out and intensifies the flavour. And if you remember back to the beginning of the video, it's all about evening out that concentration of flavour. So if your flavour is already nice and intensified in your tea, there's a lot more flavour to push out, meaning you'll end up with a much more stronger tasting liquid at the end of it. Also with it being dried, osmotic diffusion works on the ability for the liquid to flow through your chosen item, and if it's dried, it readily absorbs the moisture easier, making it easier for it to flow through. Whereas if it were using fresh leaves, they would already have moisture in it and make it a bit harder to get the alcohol to flow through it. The other thing, obviously it's cut up small. This is to do with surface area. If you had one whole orange, or if you cut up an orange into smaller pieces, the liquid interacts with more surfaces, therefore you get more liquid flowing through and more diffusion. So whenever take away from this is when you're preparing your item to put into your diffusion. You really want it as small as possible, with as much surface area, and as dry as possible to get the alcohol to flow through easier. So yeah, this is the part of the video where I normally start talking about ratios and grams and like how to do these, and you'll see me making it. Infusions are quite boring to watch. They are just put some dried stuff in, pour a liquid on, easy peasy. In terms of ratios, I don't want to give you an ironed-on one because there isn't really one. There's so many different variables when it comes to making an infusion. The best way is just to dive in and see how it goes. So things to think about: you've obviously got the size of your item you're infusing. You've got how strong a flavour it has. Is it dried? And then you've also then got the liquid itself. What does this liquid taste like? What's the temperature of it? How strong is the alcohol in it? What kind of alcohol are you using? Like a vodka infusion and a whiskey infusion, for example. Like if you put the same thing in both of them, you've got less to worry about of the vodka. There isn't as many strong flavours in that. Whereas with the whiskey, there might be some quite strong, robust flavours in there that don't play well with what you're infusing. So there's a lot to think about, and I don't really want to say you put X amount of alcohol and X amount of item in there and you get a good infusion after a few days. However, what I will do is give you a few rough pointers to keep an eye on whilst you're doing it, and from there you should be able to figure things out. So obviously start with a small amount, I would say, is the best way to go. I've made a lavender infused vodka, which is just here. So I start with 100 ml of vodka and put 10 sprigs of lavender into it. I've got plenty of vodka left to have another go if it's wrong. I've got plenty of lavender that if I need more lavender to put into it, hasn't quite got the flavour I want, I can have another go. That's the main reason for doing a small amount to begin with. So you don't create too much wastage and don't end up losing 25 quid's worth of liquid or running out of whatever you're trying to infuse. Secondly, taste it every day. Different things infuse at different rates. I can't say to you that 4 days are perfect for every single infusion. I tend to leave mine about 4 days to a week, just in case. I think that gets like the best amount of infusion on a lot of things. But for example, this lavender that I've done, I've only left it 3 days. I think at the moment it is perfumed more than enough, and any more would create too strong a flavour. Keep in mind that you will only get a certain amount of infusion. It will only go as far as equal, like everything tasting the same. You'll never make the liquid taste more like lavender than the lavender already tastes. So if you've infused it for 4 days and you've found that the flavour isn't strong enough, you need to put more in, put more of your lavender replacement in. But the best thing, if you taste it each day, if you put too much in and it's infusing too quickly, you can stop the infusion early, which is what I've done. After 3 days, I've said that's enough. So it's cocktail demo time again. So as I said at the beginning of the video, I've got a bit of a theme for this cocktail. I come across an Instagram competition for a cocktail based around a classic film. I chose Gladiator for mine, and around the whole concept of Elysium and like the Roman and, well, adopted by the Romans but originally Greek, sort of like place where all the heroes chosen by God go. So I'm using like lavender and flowers and sort of floral flavours to sort of bring across that feeling of that this meadow where everything's easy and everything's great, and it's a bit heavenly. You'll see lavender's fairly relaxing and stuff like that. It's all like ties in together nicely. So let me just pull you down a little bit. So Luxusova is the vodka that I use for my infusion, which is here. So strained all the lavender bits out and it's ready to go. So that was just 40 mils. Got some Lillet just to add a little bit of depth, a little botanicals from the aromatized wine. Just 15 ml of that. And this plays quite nicely with the floral flavours, bit of stone fruit and peach. Another floral component, hibiscus syrup. This one's by Funkin. It's quite difficult to make your own hibiscus syrup at home. That's 15 ml as well. And then as I'm out of lemon at the moment, I've actually got some citric acid solution in my little pesto pot here. This is quite a strong solution, about 15%, so this only needs to be about 7.5 ml. Then I've got a little foam or egg white in here to provide a foam. Nice and easy, quick, dry shake. Add your ice. Shake again to chill. Wipe up after the mess you've made on your own worktop. Then just into a rocks glass. Over some ice. Pour it straight out and in. So that's it for this week, guys. So that's infusions covered. Yeah, how infusions work through osmotic diffusion, equaling out of all the concentration of flavour throughout the entire liquid. Alcohol absorbs flavour better, so there's no need for heat, but you can use sous vide techniques to apply heat and work on more stubborn flavours. So next week we're going to continue with personalising the alcoholic selection of your cocktail and move into fat washes, which is something I'm quite excited about. I haven't done a fat wash throughout the entire of this pandemic, and I'm looking forward to showing you guys how to do one. So thanks for watching again, guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.